Hi, I am Michelle Julian, your Goddess Guide. Welcome to the Rise of the Goddess Collective podcast. This was birthed due to the discontent of all of the negative background noise of competition, body shaming, jealousy, the list goes on. And we as goddesses, we have an opportunity to stand together, be bigger, bolder, and more elegant than all of that. And the best way to do this is together. This isn't just a podcast, this is a movement. So let's join and honor each other together. Rise of the Goddess. Your being goddess state is always within reach. It's a state of activating the next version of you that's always wanting to show up. It's pivoting out of the imposter syndrome, head on, eyes open, even within the darkness of this major uprising. Welcome to the Rise of the Goddess Collective. I am your host, Michelle Julian, your Goddess Guide. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rise of the Goddess Collective podcast. I am Michelle Julian, your host and your goddess, and we have a juicy guest here, Nicole. She is a friend, she's a mentor, she's a guide, she's a teacher, she's all those things to me and to many others. And we met actually during the pandemic and like right before the pandemic. And I signed up for your class, Dare to Lead Trained Professional Training. Mm-hmm. And I think that was such a perfect thing for me to kind of immerse myself in, because I couldn't see my clients, my physical clients. As most people know, watching or listening to this, I'm a massage therapist. I have clients that come to me. I have an office. I'm a healer and a lifestyle coach, channeler. And I really wanted, kind of more soulful, fulfilling tools in my own arsenal for my own personal development, for me as a human being on this planet Earth. And I just had always wanted to take Brené Brown's training, but it just never seemed physically, financially possible. And who knew that I was going to do this with you? So I just want to kind of talk about like how you figured this whole thing out, being like offline. You were doing these kind of Dare to Lead training. Pretty much, I don't think you were doing them online at the time. You were doing them like little, have people come to you and they would learn the whole process of the Dare to Lead. So let's just kind of talk about like how that was for you and how, doing that pivoting to online and what that kind of felt like for you.
Yeah, well, luckily, my own business has been a pretty much, virtual presence for the majority of its years, so I work with clients all over the world. So I was already very familiar with Zoom, felt very comfortable doing things in that space. However, when we trained with Brené to learn how to facilitate Dare to Lead trainings, the assumption was that they would be done in person, right? In one of two ways. Either you were going to be invited by a company to come in and take their team members through it, kind of like behind the walls, or you would do something like what I do, which we call an open enrollment, where, you kind of announce it to the world and say, hey, you want to learn how to be Dare to Lead trained? Come buy a ticket and join us. And so that's kind of the model that I had. And so we were trained to do them in person, right? And also pretty much in a pretty contained model of like maybe a 2.5 or 3 day intensive training. We were together for 3 days and we go. So the ones that I had done prior to, so I got certified to do this work and immediately got a breast cancer diagnosis. So I had a little bit of a hiatus from doing the work. But before I took that break, I did take some people through the Dare to Lead process live and in person. It was 3 days. It was wonderful. And that was the assumption of how I was going to re-enter this world. And so right before the pandemic, as things were starting to kind of, come into view and start to shut down, we had this plan to do in person here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We had the venue, we had bought the caterer, like all of it. And it went from, and anyone who's like in the same space will appreciate this. We went from, okay, we're going to have it, but we're not going to have a buffet, right? We're going to have boxed lunches. So we kind of kept scooching it down and changing the numbers and going from, having kind of like buffet meals to boxed meals. And then we said, okay, well, we'll make sure that everything's disposable and we'll have hand sanitizer. And we just kind of kept minimizing it. And then the shutdown came. And so we had to pivot. And so we had to decide, do we continue or do we reschedule? And we decided, based upon, I say we, because my co-facilitator is Patrice Dunkley, we decided that we could do this. And we pivoted from a 3-day live event to a 3-week Zoom intensive. And the beautiful piece about that was that there were people who weren't local and could not attend local, such as you, were able to jump in with us to do these things, right? So it really created a beautiful opportunity to take lemons and make some lemonade with it. And we've never gone back to even the idea of doing them in person again. I'm not sure that we ever will. I think we'll keep them online. So it really did create a beautiful opportunity to reach more people.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's so interesting. So you're thinking this online portal to teach this really, really powerful method of Brené Brown's method. I really, really feel like she's trademarked this method.
Yeah.
Dare to Lead training, and all her language and her exercises really help you to kind of respect yourself first, right? This is what we as leaders and guides and teachers really need to understand, that if we're not setting those boundaries and loving ourselves and taking care of ourselves, how can we help others facilitate that for themselves? So that's really cool. So it's almost like you're feeling like the container of online is more almost in, like I would say the word I would use would be almost like not secret per se, but more, it's like more private in some ways.
Yeah, it's
What do
more
you?
inclusive, it's more
Mhm.
accessible. It gives us, some privacy that perhaps we wouldn't have. And we really leaned into what our values were. See, this is why values work is important. Freedom, authenticity, and consent are my values. So I really leaned into, okay, where can we find freedom here, and where can we be authentic in this process? So we asked and engaged with the people who had signed up already to say, hey, if we, shift this to an online presence instead of a live event, would you still want to come? And 99% of the people said yes, right? And not only that, but they said yes, and everything shut down right as we were starting our training. So they were navigating Dare to Lead process, learning Dare to Lead, which you know how intense that is, while their kids are coming home from school with no plan what to do with them. Like, it was a lot, but many of them said, I was so happy to have this experience because it gave me something to focus on outside of the chaos, right? It was a container to talk about what was going on, to have like-minded people to process it with. I was in my home, so I could not have to go anywhere or be anywhere. It still gave me the opportunity to do it. So really, it did end up being a really beautiful experience. And because we didn't feel the need to make it perfect and
Mhm.
wanted to lean into our values, we were able to pivot with the consent of the
Mm.
people around us. So yeah, it was really beautiful.
Yes, it was really rich,
Hmm.
and it's so needed, this training. I know that, um, my daughter actually, she's familiar with Brené Brown's work, and she's in human resources herself.
Hmm.
She actually is like the director of
Hmm.
her company. She's in the biotech industry. And she said that, you would be amazed. She said to me the other day, she's like, you would be amazed how many people really don't know how to handle um, confrontation in
Hmm.
companies in different departments, in being helpful,
Yeah.
in not creating more discontent in the situation. And she said that, having tools like Brene Brown's tools really helps open up the
Hmm.
conversation so I can be a good listener and good communicator and get, my needs met, and be making sure that the other person gets to be seen and heard and understood, and that, you know they're not perfect beings,
Hmm.
right? Like, we talk about this. There's a what they call a permission slip,
Hmm.
and I'd love you to share what the permission slip
Hmm.
means as a dare to lead facilitating
Yeah.
trainer.
Yeah, well, she should get trained with us. She's the perfect person to go through Dare to Lead training.
I know.
So permission slip is something that I don't think Brene came up with this. I think that she actually probably learned this from someone else, because what you'll find about Brene is that she really relies on existing research, existing experts, and then what comes up from the research that she's doing, right? So it's very research driven. So I think the permission slip came from somewhere else, but she's adapted it. And so, and I use it in all the programs that I do. So what it is basically that, we can alleviate some of that pressure of having to show up a certain way or to do something a very specific way when we can give ourselves permission to do it differently or to allow something. So, for example, when I offer a class online or give a talk online now, right? Because we're all doing, talks online, permission for the technology not to work, right? And so I will write myself a permission slip saying, I give myself permission to not freak out if the technology does not work, because this is not a life or death thing. It is totally fine, right? Or permission to shut down the tabs on your computer and actually pay attention to what's happening, or permission to take bathroom breaks when I need them, despite what's happening in the room, like whatever that may be for you. What it does is that you name it, you write it down, and you're kind of claiming space for yourself to show up in a way that gives you permission to be human, not perfect, and to set expectations for yourself that I think are loving, right? Um, so yeah, so we use the permission slips and Dare to Lead at the very beginning of the training. We share them with each other because, again, it's kind of like normalizing our human experience with each other. And I also use it in my programs too. It's a really nice container builder.
I definitely feel like it sets the tone, because I think a lot of people that are in business and a lot of people that are online have that misunderstanding that we all have it together perfectly. Like, everything just looks so
Hmm.
like it goes together. Like, the branding of the business, the Canva picture of you and me and all of that. And no one really understands that behind the scenes, technology gets glitchy, and that, it doesn't mean that you're a
Hmm.
failure, because all of a sudden I can't hear you, you can't hear me. It's just the way, like, kind of how life rolls out, right?
Yeah.
It
Hmm.
has its ups and downs. And I think that that's such an important ingredient, especially seeing that you're doing more online training, that other entrepreneurs see that you give them grace, you hold that container and you give them grace and ease and permission to be who they are authentically, right? But
Hmm.
also, if they make a mishap or something happens, a mistake, or maybe they even say something wrong,
Hmm.
you pretty much say, hey, it's okay. You don't need to be perfect,
Yeah.
with this situation or with me. I'm not gonna, like, hold your hand to the fire, say, like, shame on you. You
Yeah.
did something wrong. You know what I mean? Even if you are in the midst of this training and you're learning the assignments and the exercises, and you say something that technically probably wasn't a super mindful thing,
Hmm.
the way you approach it is in a loving, kind, respectful way. And I think that, coaches really need to have that. Online coaches need that. Even offline
Hmm.
businesses need to know that, their goal really shouldn't be trying to be perfect and
Hmm.
having everything just so, because that's just too much stress and it's not
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's so important that you are creating that
Hmm.
container for us so we can be truly ourselves, even in a flaw, in a way. So I want to talk about what chapter you are personally in your life right now. I personally am in my 40s and beyond.
Hmm.
And I think it's important for the audience just to know, like, the chapter that you're in now and what you're thinking about doing with your life and your business
Hmm.
as the chapters are unfolding into the summer, what things you're planning on doing, for your this chapter in your life.
Hmm. Yeah, so I turned 50 in February. So a big birthday. I was a little salty that I couldn't do anything for it because of the pandemic. I was a little salty about a lot of things because we, again, came off this whole like breast cancer treatment journey. No celebrations to be had because we're in a lockdown. um, and also, 50th birthday, and my husband and I had our 10th wedding anniversary. And again, like, these are things to complain about that are not that big of a deal, but they start to add up, and I feel like that we've come out of a chapter where we were just kind of holding steady, right?
Mhm.
Just flying under the radar, trying to make it happen and be okay. And I tell a lot of people that because of me going through cancer treatment for almost a year, we were kind of used to already being on lockdown ourselves because we didn't go out and do a whole lot. So we kind of like pre-gamed for pandemic. So for us, it really was just like, one more thing. And I really recognize that, this time frame has really given me the chance to, kind of go within and really understand what is important to me and what is not, right? Like what I want to focus on and what I don't. And I've let go of a lot of things that I don't really want to focus on. And what I know to be true for me and my business in particular is that I'm going to double down always when it comes to the conversation of how childhood trauma, first of all, needs to be defined, secondly, needs to be discussed, and why it's at the intersection of everything, and we need to have that conversation. And so, in this chapter in my business, it is, sharing the message of my book, sharing the Do No Harm program, and expanding out what it means to be trauma conscious as an entrepreneur. So that is my chapter. Like, I'm very clear about what I'm supposed to be doing in my business, like very, very clear. And so I will always, always, always come back to that. And I'm also personally at the place where And I'm not perfect at this, don't get me wrong, but if it's not at the benefit, if my health and well-being are not at the center of what I'm doing, then none of it will matter, right? It'll be built on some flimsy sand, right? And so working on putting myself first, I think is super important. And so allowing myself to be and do and feel. And I was at a celebration last weekend for my dear cousin at a wedding, and she had also been through this journey of breast cancer, and everyone around them was just celebrating their love and the fact they'd gotten through this journey. And I was sitting on, it was on a yacht. I was sitting on the top deck of the yacht, and I just sat there and looked at the moon. It's about being present in the moment, and I became very emotional and started to cry. And it was like, I don't feel like that. I don't feel like I've gotten to have that like relief and celebration moment the way that they're having downstairs. And I'm really happy for them. But it became very present to me that this next chapter of mine needs to have a lot of celebration, right? There needs to be travel, there needs to be fun, there needs to be celebration, because I've been bracing for the past 2 years, and it's time to just kind of open up. So
Mhm.
this next chapter is about more fun, my business supporting me in a beautiful way, doubling down on my message, and I dare anyone to try and push me off that square. Right, I'm not budging, and putting my health and well-being and fun at the next step. 'Cause I'm 50, right? So
Exactly.
it's time.
Exactly. Exactly. It's so interesting that you say that because I was listening to Glennon Doyle's podcast about fun and how we as women, we are not really programmed as little kids to just to go and have fun. Like there's organized fun, there's
Mhm.
like, basketball or soccer and joining, you know, a team, when you're younger, when you're in grade school, but to actually just go out and have fun, like you were talking about, like actually feeling that feeling of relief and excitement that you now can start traveling and you can start seeing your husband and yourself enjoying each other because you don't have that like battle that you were talking about to get through the
Mhm.
the breast cancer journey. And now it's like, oh, let's just take a deep breath and think about how I can just enjoy myself, and not feel like it's like I'm in that work mode
Mhm.
of that personal work mode of like I need to take care of XYZ in order for XYZ to happen with my breast cancer. And then I need to do this for my business and follow through with this and that. And so fun really doesn't even have any space.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the fact that a lot of coaches will say, you need to have more play. But what we were saying is if you have trauma, play is a foreign concept a lot of the time, right?
Mhm.
So if you've had trauma as a child, where you've been put in a parentified situation, or you just needed to be quiet, and not draw attention to yourself, or, your nervous system needed to be managed in some way, play is not always a trauma and conscious experience for people, right? So, and so when someone will say to me, you just need to go play, I'm like, what does that even look like? I've never played because I had such an intense home life and so much happening around me. But what
Yeah.
I could identify, and we did kind of like, we looked at this and we're like, coaches need to be more trauma informed about the whole idea of play, is that, but what I did experience were moments of delight, right? So when I think about now, like where does play out in my business, in my life, I'm not sure, but I do know and have had the experience of being delighted about something, or delighted about an experience, or being, delighted about, walking on a hiking trail when I'm 10 and thinking like I'm a Boy Scout because I finally got to go hiking, right? I was delighted by that experience. I don't know if it was play necessarily, but I could connect with that, right? So yeah, definitely more experiences around, fun and delight in my life.
Mhm. That makes so much sense because you're leaning into the fun with the feeling, because it might not necessarily be an activity,
Yeah.
especially like you're saying, if you've had so much trauma, certain things, right, could trigger
Hmm.
the trauma to come back
Hmm.
with that particular activity because of the trauma that you went through
Hmm.
as a young child or even
Yeah.
as an older adult. I know myself, I've had 4 near-death experiences with a bike, with a motorcycle, with falling down, hiking
Hmm.
down a trail in Sedona. So, going back to those supposed fun activities could be triggering
Hmm.
for me. So, um, you need to be discerning of
Hmm.
like how you're going to actually feel into that energy of fun, which brings me in and segues me into how you yourself have been able to be discerning and intuitive with your own goddess wisdom of what it is that you need to do to truly love yourself and love your business. Because
Hmm.
I really would love to kind of get into your book, How to
Yeah.
Love Your Business, Stop Recreating Trauma and Have a Business You Love and That Loves You Back conversation. So it's a great segue into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, love is my word of the year because every year I pick a new word. And love was the very first word I ever chose when I started doing that. My cousin and I ran a group online, a Facebook group called the Resolute Word, where people would come together every year and share what their word for the year was. It was really fun.
Mm.
And so love, I chose it again for this year because I was like, I really, I need to feel more loving because people are hard to love right now sometimes, and I just really felt like it was a focus. Um, and also this idea of like discernment, like what it really means, because I felt like I had been disconnected from my wisdom for a while. And so I'll talk about the book in a minute, but what you asked me really kind of made me think about, okay, so love is my word of the year. And what does it mean to be in that goddess wisdom? And I really feel like very, very recently, in the past month or so, like I was kind of told by a few people, hey, this is the year that you're really going to step into like some of that real intuitive stuff, right? I feel like I've always been intuitive, but like really, really, really like the divine wisdom. And there were two experiences I had recently. I think you'll appreciate, and that's why I'll share them with you in particular, is that I think when it comes down to love, it's about learning to really celebrate and appreciate ourselves. And I was doing nothing. I was watching television with my husband, and I felt this presence come around me that just I felt surrounded. Like, and I'm not sure what that looks like for other people. For me, it's a very new experience to feel like I'm not alone. I'm in the room with my husband, but I feel like I'm not alone all of a sudden. Like I feel a presence around me. And it was about Dare to Lead. It was about this whole, Dare to Lead program because we had just wrapped up our most recent cohort. And I felt that there were people around me who basically were saying, you didn't take a breath to celebrate the fact that you graduated one more cohort of people and that it's pretty awesome that you took the risk to apply to work with Brené. You went to San Antonio to learn the stuff. You put yourself out there. There are people in the world who are making a difference now, and there is a ripple because you took that risk to say yes to this, because you went and did the thing. You went to, San Antonio. You did this, Nicole. Take a moment and know that because of you, there are people out there whose lives are changed. Their vision is different, and they're going to make a ripple effect in their lives, right? Um, so again, it's that loving wisdom coming through, and a similar experience around the book is that finally got it published. It came out in August and in April, and kind of went into that whirlwind of, okay, because the book's out there, we're going to promote it, getting people to read it ahead of time. I had about 6 people read it ahead of time from different backgrounds, kind of in the mechanism of it.
Mhm.
And again, Sunday, Sunday, doing nothing, about a week after it published. And again, I felt that presence come around that said, you need to take a breath and celebrate this. You need to celebrate yourself because you stuck with it. It's 4 years it took to get this book out into the world. you stuck with it, you did this, you need to celebrate this, you need to honor this, because your life and other people's lives will be changed by this book. So it's such a new experience for me to feel really connected to what it means to love yourself in your business in a new way, and to feel divinely supported in that, right? So that's kind of a newer experience that I'm having around that idea of love. But I can definitely talk about the book, and kind of like the origins of it
Mm,
too. But I just thought this would be a really good space to kind of talk about that experience I had recently.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. Like loving yourself, you can do this in so many ways as a human being, right? So, how you're like seeing your own personal self grow
Mm-hmm.
and honoring that and just saying, wow, I'm so proud of you,
Mm-hmm.
looking at yourself outside of yourself. And that way you're giving love to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which is loving your business too,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it definitely takes it to a new level.
And it's truly embodying what you're talking about in this book is
Mm-hmm.
how to kind of step back and ask yourself these discerning questions. How can you see yourself loving your business in a certain way by being more inquisitive
Mm-hmm.
and thought provoking of like why you even started this business and
Yep.
what was the whole point if you were to love your business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like we're talking about it's going within, going in embodying what it
Mm-hmm.
is that you want to teach and share, and taking it to the next level of your soul, like your soul's calling. Like I feel like self-care right now is at the next level of soul care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We all know basic self-care things like going for a walk, meditating, taking care of our body, eating
Yeah.
good, exercising. But what are we doing for the soul? How
Mm-hmm.
are we going and contemplating all of the things that we understand as our wisdom, and how are we ourselves receiving that love, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think that that's what's so juicy about your book. And one thing I really enjoy really is, writing yourself a love letter. I mean, that in itself can really just kind of jumpstart somebody to really start being curious about what exactly they're doing now with their business and how are they being kind to themselves. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just really curious, um, what what inspired you to actually even do this love lettering exercise?
Yeah. So, what inspired it is that, I was creating a business that was not nice to me, really. And honestly, about 2 years into my business, I recognized, the full versions in the book. But the kind of gist of it is that I recognized one morning, as I was getting out of bed, that I just felt completely beat up and brutalized by my business. And I didn't want to continue on with that. I felt like a loser. I felt like nothing I was doing was working, even though there was evidence to the contrary that it was working. I didn't feel like my clients were getting what they needed. Again, evidence to the contrary, but I was seeing it that way. And I recognized that had created a business that was confirming what I already thought about myself. And that was that I was not worthy. And that beyond that I needed one more person, place, or thing in my life to create an abusive cycle with me, right? And so I was creating a really abusive, toxic relationship with my business. And when I recognized this, thankfully, and that was a divine moment, right? It definitely was. When I recognized it, I understood that, okay, so if I'm feeling beat up by my business, and I'm a business of one, ain't nobody else set it up this way. It was me. So if I'm feeling this way and I've set up this relationship with my business to be really harmful to me, why would I do that? And because I have a therapist background and I know that people who have trauma tend to replicate those trauma patterns themselves, the traumatic situation can be in your past and the people involved in it can even not even be there anymore. But we tend to recreate those trauma patterns ourselves. And that is what I was doing with my business and the relationship I was having with it. And so once I recognized that, it was really kind of like this big open, wide open space of, okay, so if I can create this to be not supportive, how can I change the relationship to be more loving? How can I change the entity of my business from this like mean, demanding person to a loving, supportive, compatible partnership? And so I took my training as a therapist and kind of broke it apart. And like, if I was doing couples therapy with me and my business, what would I be doing here? And I reframed the relationship with it, and part of that was identifying how I wanted to feel in this partnership. What were some of the things that I needed and that I promised, I would show up for, and created this idea of my business being outside of us, because we are not our business. It's something outside of us we're relating to. Um, and part of that process was like a commitment. And so once I recognized who my business was, it was not this mean, terrible boss. It was actually a loving and supportive, in the book, it's, I tell you that it's the Muppet of Christmas Present, like that spirit. He came into my mind's eye. I was able to see him, relate to him. And so one of the practices is writing a love letter to your business to say, you know what, you're fantastic. I love you. I want you to love me too. I want us to feel good about this relationship. These are all my commitments to you, right? To really kind of put it on paper and to define what that looks like for you. And I think, and I also have you write a love letter back from your business to you, because again, it's a relationship. But I think that there's something really, interesting about that love letter, because actually other people have told me that it is used in other design thinking, and like there's other places that it's used that I wasn't aware of. So I thought that was really kind of cool. But if you can't write a love letter to your business, then you need a new relationship with your business. Like you do, right? If you don't feel like you can say that you love it and what your commitments are to it and how you see your future with it, then there's something that needs to be fixed. I had a group of IT guys for IT when I was doing lunch and learn. They're like, I don't really understand the whole love part. I don't really see my business as like I don't know about this whole writing a love letter thing, is what they said. And I said, then write a letter to your best friend. Like, what are your commitments to your best friend? Think of it that way.
Right. Yeah, because the thing is like, if you're not conscious of what's happening with yourself and your business, then your vision, right, can't really have clarity.
Yeah.
Right? Because we all know as entrepreneurs, you need to have a vision. And you also need to understand what your values are according to your vision and your mission. So if those aren't clear, you're really kind of in the dark.
Absolutely. You're grasping at straws, or you're defaulting into old behaviors that don't serve you.
Right. And your intention is not that. I mean, no one is saying, oh, I want to be in the dark and I want to hurt people. We're all here to contribute to society as human beings on this planet Earth. What's the whole point if we're not contributing? We don't want to be contaminating, right? And so I think it's really, really important that the audience understands that this book really helps you do this. And it's not like they're in this deep counseling session with you, right? Don't get scared, people. This book it's juicy, it's comprehensive, but it's fun, it's light, it's kind, it's compassionate. She paces you through the processes, so well written, and just like the book itself is very light, it's easy to travel with. I've been traveling back and forth from Watertown to Vermont, and like I'll be on chapter 7 and I'll go and I'll read that and then I'll go backwards. I'm like, wait a minute, I feel like I missed something, so it's very easy to follow, and it just the way it's set up, it's not like you have someone standing over you saying, okay, assignment 2, assignment you can't do assignment 4 if you didn't do assignment 3. It's much more loving and guiding. And it's just really helping you set those boundaries for yourself so you can love yourself. And if you love yourself, then you can love your clients, your customers even more.
Yeah.
You'll be able to thrive. And so it's all about having that, growth mindset, that
Yeah.
personal business development growth mindset. And I know myself, I've been like this my whole life. When I've started my business, doing the massage, and then I grew into doing yoga and meditation and now lifestyle coaching, and now I'm doing the channeling with the oracle card decks, which you have received, and we still need to set up a session.
I know.
Because well, that's your love that you can receive.
Yeah.
You can give that to yourself. So I'm sure you just talked about giving yourself some love. So I'm sure we'll be doing that soon. So before we end this amazing conversation, I would love to know, what would you say that is your favorite hack to help you stay in this goddess wisdom vibration of caring for yourself, loving for yourself?
Yeah, and it's so hard to practice sometimes, but because our thought, because we've been in some hard times lately, right? It's kind of hard to see positive things, right? And so in our space in it. And so one of the things that is kind of a hack for me lately is that I wake up in the morning and I tell myself, I'm going to see myself in the most positive light today, and all that is at available to me, right? Like, I'm not going to go down the path of seeing Nicole as a problem that needs to be solved today. I'm not going to go down the path of looking at my business as something that, it needs to be different in order to be successful. That I need to change something today. Like, I make that choice to at least start my day. Sometimes I don't stay there, but at least start my day with this whole idea of like, I'm fine. I'm not broken. I'm not deficient. Like, I'm fantastic. I'm wonderful. I am resourced, and I can definitely look at myself as I've already won. Like, I've just already won. There's nothing that needs to be proven here. And so I've been really using that as a way to start my day, because I find the way that you start your day, really does set you up. And then I'll go listen to a Brené Brown podcast or something to get me into the flow of wisdom by really impactful, important people before I let the rest of the world get into my head. And I really think that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those podcasts, those audibles, all of those things that we can just have by our side, like when we're doing the dishes or when we're cleaning out our closet. Like, I cleaned out my closet this past weekend. I really did the decluttering because I felt like it's really spring now and it's really summer, even though it was raining all weekend.
Yeah.
But it was perfect. I'm so glad it rained, because I would have been outside on my bike, doing my biking and just being outdoors. But I was literally forced. I was given a gift to love myself in a different way by decluttering my closet. And it felt so, so good. And I think that's what we all need to just kind of really embrace, that, the universe sets things up for us to succeed and to flourish and to thrive. It's just that mindset in our reaction to things. So I am just so happy and excited that you were able to take this time out of your very busy, thriving business and, you working on your own personal boundaries of taking care of yourself. So just tell the audience where's the best way they can get you and, either work with you or
Mhm.
get your book. It's on Amazon.
Yes. So it is on Amazon. I know some people are not fans of Amazon, so we are working on making sure that we can get it published to platforms that will allow for indie bookshops, other places. But for now, it's Amazon. So you can get it there, Kindle or print version. And please leave a review if you love it, because that helps me get seen. So it really does. I can't believe I'm like, asking for reviews. Like, that's not who I am, but it really does make a difference.
Yes.
So there's that. And honestly, I think if you want to get the most real time, experience of me, my website's fine, but I don't know that that's the best place to go. I would say, go over to Instagram at Nicole.Lewis-Keeber
Mhm.
to find out really kind of what I'm more into each day,
Mhm.
or Nicole
Mhm.
Lewis Keeber Coaching on Facebook.
Yeah, you do little like TV videos. It's like almost like you get your own TV show going on, and it's got a great, flavor to it because it's authentic. It's
Hmm.
real. You talk about what's like going on in real time, right? It's
Yeah.
not the shiny objects, it's not the
No.
memes, it's those real conversations, the real stuff that's happening. And it's, to me, I think that's why reality shows do so well on TVs, because people want to like relate to each other in the real world. They're not looking for shiny. They know life isn't perfect, especially
Hmm.
going through the pandemic. We all know life is far from perfect, and we need to give ourselves grace and humor. And I think you do that. I think on IG, I've watched a few of your IGs.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
excited that you came on the Rise of the Goddess
Thank you for having me.
Collective podcasts.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to giving you a testimonial on your book and giving you the 6 stars or 5 stars, whatever it is. And I know the audience will just love your book. And I'm sure we'll be talking soon. And have a great rest of your week. And it's going to be great weather, so I'm sure you will. Is there
Mhm.
any last words you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, that you are the most important person in your business.
Mm,
Period.
I like that.
Mhm.
I like that a lot. That sounds good. Really good.
Mhm. You first. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard to actually do that. It sounds easy,
Hmm.
but it actually is hard.
Yeah. Simple, not easy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I always appreciate your willingness to share, your platform with me around the work that I do.
Oh, I love the work you do. Love it. So we will be sharing this on YouTube, and we'll be sharing it on all of the podcast portals, Anchor and Spotify and iTunes. It's going to be all there. And I am so excited that you could do this for me today.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
have a great day. I'm going to stop the recording. And thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
Bye for now.
See you later.
Thank you for being here inside the Goddess Collective. I wanted to let you know that when you come to the collective, you are receiving free resources that help you with your self-awareness. I created free trainings for you. It's the Julian Method Goddess Activation Group. It's free, and it's a face group collective to help you get started with a new way of living. Follow along and witness the power of intentionally living with me and step in to the new realm of self-care for the activated goddess. They're bare bones, basic 101 goddess tips and tools. You'll get a 3-day consecutive boot camp. It's a taster of the Julian method. I help you get started on your goddess practice. You'll find it at thejuliangoddesscoaching.com. And also, a real special treat, you can receive the Being and Becoming Goddess Oracle deck. Yes, I birthed this during the pandemic. Super juicy. You'll receive a published deck with a digital deck and also your own goddess activated meditation audio. Juicy, juicy goddess things are in store for you. I am so excited for you and this journey. Have a glorious day, and remember, your activation is my activation. Have a great day.